It's like, wait a second. Uh, Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. And again, apologies for our AV issues, but we shall proceed. Um, and welcome to all those who are also joining us online. So I wanted to start out, so you can see the first photo there. Okay. This is not intended to be the history of Queer Nation Utah, but a history of it from my perspective. Queer Nation for me was such a profoundly transformative experience. I had been out of the closet for some 5 years by the time I encountered Queer Nation, and I still suffered greatly from the toxicity of the closet that included suicidality, self harm, self loathing, and feelings of worthlessness and unworthiness to even exist. Becoming an activist, showing up for myself and for my tribe in such radical ways, changed everything about the trajectory of the rest of my life. And I look back now with a really lovely sense of gratitude for the growth and healing that I experienced. And who I am is based on very firmly on what our little queer tribe did here in Salt Lake back in those days. So, it, who here does not know the significance of the pink triangle? Oh, awesome. Oh, Monique? Okay. It, Nazi Germany, homosexuals are being incarcerated in the camps and stuff. And, Jews had the yellow Star of David on their prison uniforms. Gay men had pink triangles. There were some lesbians who were also incarcerated. I think theirs was a purple triangle. Is that right? I've forgotten. Anyway, so the pink triangle was reclaimed as to uh, not only as a remembrance of what had happened in Nazi Germany, but as a statement of never again, never forget, never again. So as you'll see on that banner, we took the state of Utah and turned it into a pink triangle. Um, let's see.
What you'll do is click like that.
I'll just click the pad.
Click
Okay.
the pad, yeah.
So just a content advisory. There's a lot of adult language in this, and there will also be one kind of graphic image, erotic, sort of like a Calvin Klein ad. Please come as close as you can so that you can see the. Can that be raised up any higher? Do we have something?
I'll fiddle. You continue.
Okay. I just realized the further people back are, the harder it's going to be to see. Alice, Robert, thank you for coming. So yeah, content warning, lots of F-bombs. Um, so the motivation for the creation nationally of Queer Nation was the homophobic and racist hysteria that had been going on during the AIDS crisis in the early 80s. And then by 1989, there was an enormous increase in anti-LGBT violence in America. Well, there was also a lot of, because of AIDS, there was a lot of anti-sex messaging coming from conservative religions. And then Queer Nation was directly inspired by ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, that had been founded in 1987.
There you go.
And then locally, we started Queer Nation because of the profound homophobia of the LDS Church and our lived experiences coming out of that background, and then inclusive of the LDS controlled legislature that was doing a lot of really super homophobic things. One bill that was introduced, it didn't pass, but it was to incarcerate all gay men on Antelope Island because to keep AIDS there on the island. In 1990, a local activist named Ben Williams returned from Boston with this infamous 4-page manifesto called Queers Read This, published by the Anonymous Queers Collective in New York City in June. And the two taglines for it are "Don't Tread on Me" and "An army of lovers cannot lose," which is a paraphrase of something that Plato said. So I got a copy of that manifesto, read through it. I was on fire. I was like, oh my gosh, this is astounding. So I took the 4-page manifesto and I reduced it to a 1-page "Don't Tread on Me." And it reads, "How can I tell you, sister, brother? How can I convince you that your life is in danger? How can I warn you that this heterosexist society in which we live wants nothing but your non-existence? This heterosexist patriarchal society exploits you, taxes you without representing you, abuses you, denigrates you, fears you, hates you, manipulates you, experiments upon you, and murders you. How can you and I together stop this homicide? Shout if you must, but stop being the victim and start loving your queerness. Value it, cherish it, and speak it loudly, clearly, in our queer tongue. Don't give in to heterosexist coercion to conform to their game. Don't play by their rules. Don't speak in their tongue, speak in our tongue. Don't pay any more tithing. Don't enter any more of their temples. Don't vote for any more heterosexist bigots. Don't bow to any more heterosexist gods. Don't watch any more heterosexist movies. Don't attend any more of their churches. Don't listen to their doctors and priests. Just don't give up and don't give in. We can live and win our liberation with the simplest of acts. Every time we wake up alive, we win. Whenever we smile, we win. Whenever we fuck, we win. Start speaking your queerness and shout to the world, "Don't tread on me." So this is an authorized copy of this flyer that I made, and that a handful of us started pasting all over town in mid to late 1990. There are official authorized copies over on the table if you want to take home for free, but please make a donation too. Okay. Um, so then in January 1991, at the first week of January, my then husband and I had an opportunity to go to San Francisco. And while I was there, I attended a meeting of Queer Nation San Francisco. And this is what I wrote in my journal. The best part of this trip was being able to attend a Queer Nation meeting in San Francisco. 400 people, queers of all genders, sizes, colors, etc., at a regular weekly meeting. They're doing some wonderful things too. Several of us, prior to my going to San Francisco, have done some Queer Nation graffiti zaps here in Salt Lake City. But after seeing what Queer Nation in San Francisco is doing, I came back ready to organize. Coincidentally, a queer woman named Melanie Bailey from Salt Lake was also at the same Queer Nation meeting as I was, so we're joining forces for some major civil disobedience this year in Zion. I can't wait. So in January 19, the second week after I came back, Melanie Bailey on the right and I met at Curtis Jensen's home to formally organize Queer Nation Utah. And then Bailey, she promised $1,000 in seed money and then ghosted us, and we never saw the seed money. But oh well. Um, and in organizing Queer Nation that month, it was to be non-hierarchical, non-violent, but militant and radical, consensus-based. It was about queer liberation, not assimilation. Our main goal was queer visibility at nearly any cost. And we did that through direct action zaps, which were swift, intense, usually really brief political actions, graffitiing and postering and stuff like that. We also, within Queer Nation Utah, we had focus groups such as SHOP, which is Suburban Homosexual Outreach Program, where we would go in the gaggle of us, go shopping together in malls out in West Valley and stuff. We had Faggot Ass Queer Lesbo Institute, which was our campus group up at the University of Utah. There was Pomo Momo Ex Momo Homos, Postmodern Ex Mormon Homosexuals, Labia, Lesbians and Bi Women in Action, etc. There were about at least a dozen focus groups. And of course, most of us were in all of them. We were a small but mighty group. Kevin Nolenberg was one of the first to join with us. I just wanted to acknowledge him. I miss him. He was a great guy. He is a great guy. Tony Palmer and Laura Trent were just the backbones of Queer Nation. These two were just, they went to everything, doing all kinds of good trouble. And I just really appreciate them as well. This is a list of the 57 or so folks that I can document that were members of Queer Nation. And the sources for that are our zines called QFM, meeting minutes, newspapers, my journals, and then my memory. And I know there's probably about another 50 that had maybe attended one event or something, so. And then to learn how to be nonviolent, non-hierarchical, and consensus-based, we relied on a lovely Quaker woman named Diana Hershey. And Heather, are you here? Her daughter was coming. Oh, Anyway, so we spent a day, an entire day in Diana's home, learning especially how to do consensus. Quakers have consensus down to a beautiful art. And so learning at the feet of this lovely Quaker woman was amazing. And, you know, consensus is really about valuing that single voice. If there's 1,000 of you that say, yes, we're going to go and, you know, storm the University of Utah, and one person says, no, I don't want to do that, then you don't do it. You value that voice and make sure that they're heard. There are ways to work with that when they say no. But that's how she explained to us how we deal with when someone says no and how to honor that voice. So we came up with our vision statement that says Queer Nation Utah is a multicultural, polygendered group that uses direct violent action. Whoops. Direct nonviolent action to fight homophobia, heterosexism, and anti-queer violence, and is dedicated to promoting queer visibility in Utah. We are empowered to combat queer oppression in all its forms. We further encourage and defend individual and group acts of queer expression. And, you know, then a really important part of this was embracing and reclaiming the word queer. That did not go over well here in a pretty well organized, quite large gay and lesbian community at that time. Using that word, there was a lot of pushback, and we didn't care. We were going to be in your face about it. So these are some of the stickers that we use that always in these really bright, neon colors. And there was a very specific font that was used as well, although other fonts were sometimes used, but mostly it was kind of this, the closest I can find now is Arial Black, or Arial Bold, but you know. And then there was a style of dress that we had. It was mainly Queer Nation t-shirts, pearls and Mardi Gras beads, combat boots, and then denim jeans with the cuff rolled up a little bit. That was kind of the standard uniform that we had. Uh, we Kmart had an offer for, one of those family photo deals, So we took advantage of that and went and got our family photo taken. And the photographer, she was just like, oh my God. We put out 4 issues of a zine called Queer Fuckers Magazine. This is the first and the 3rd issue, I think. Um, Renee Rinaldi, who is the woman looking straight out, she was my housemate at the time. We lived in the Queer Nation house, which there were about 6 of us that lived on Main Street and 5th North in the Marmalade. And so that's Renee, and she's passed away just 3 or 4 years ago. No, it was pre-COVID. Boy, that COVID era, it's just kind of disappeared, didn't it? This is the inside of one of the issues of the zine, and I specifically picked this one page because it has who are these queer fuckers, and it's basically the staff of the zine listed and what they do. And then so the graphic poster is coming up, and this is the Safe Sex is Hot Sex poster. We got about 100 copies of this from San Francisco, and we went to the Student Life Center at the U and got them to officially approve it. They gave their stamp of approval literally on it, and then we started postering the campus with all these posters. And the custodial staff were tearing them down, and we caught them. And so we complained, we're like, this was approved by the campus. Why are you, as the custodial staff, taking them down? And it turned into this huge controversy. So this goes along with the theme that I'm kind of dealing with, that we did these small little actions that had really big consequences. So the Daily Chronicle published this big article, including, reproducing this controversial poster, and then it went on and on and on. John Wilson, we suspect, was a closeted gay guy who was just livid that faggot-ass Queer Lesbo Institute dared to promote homosexuality and obscenity on campus, and yeah. Then I wrote under the pseudonym. So Rocky O'Donovan is my nickname. So my pseudonym for Slug, the Salt Lake Underground magazine, was Sister Rococo O'Sodom. It's not that funny. And I wrote an article about this controversial poster, and they printed it again. So we also had Rod Decker, who was a really popular TV host. He did a whole segment on our poster, and it was shown on KSL television, So going from, 100 posters to thousands of people seeing it in print and on television was just like, it was so amazing. Then for April Conference 1991, we did a big a zap against the LDS Church's homophobia. Who here does not know who Paul H. Dunn or Boyd K. Packer are? Okay. Paul H. Dunn was a general authority. He was a member of the Quorum of the 70, and he was super popular. He would go around the world giving these talks, these really faith-inspiring talks about baseball, that he was a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. There was a really famous Army story that because he observed the word of wisdom, he carried Sergeant Kelly over his back up this hill, dodging gunfire, et cetera, et cetera. Well, a journalist, investigative journalist, went, wait, yes, he played for the St. Louis Cardinals high school baseball team. not for the big major leagues team. And he found Sergeant Wells or whatever his name was, and the sergeant said that never happened. And so then the LDS Church came out and said he was just exaggerating. He's telling parables like Jesus told parables that weren't historical, but that, they have these kernels of truth to them that we need to embrace. They did force him to resign from his position. But okay, and then there's Paul K. or Boyd K. Packer, who was very homophobic, gave lots of anti-gay talks during conference. So we made these giant signs that said, this is an actual one printed back in the day. Okay. Paul H. Dunn exaggerates, but Boyd K. Packer lies.
Oh.
So we took those to conference and showed everybody. And then, oh, thank you. There was another one, really popular one that says, every 10th saint is a queer. We used to quote this, it's debunked, but we used to say 10% of the population was queer. But back in the day, it was probably more like 2, but facts. Who needs them? Oh, I forgot to point out my t-shirt. This is my actual Queer Nation t-shirt, Megan, would you, with my pearls that I used to wear back in the day. Yeah. So, and that's me there in the red bandana with my fairy wand. I'm holding my wand out in front of the temple gates. Another shot from our protest. We had name tags printed up for the Church of Judy Garland of Fabulous Queers, as though we were missionaries for the Gospel of Judy. I still have mine. Oh, it's over in my bag. I was going to show it. But anyway, so we all had missionary name tags. Then in June, we had this kiss-in at the Bay, which was a gay-owned disco, but they would allow same-sex kissing there, but they wouldn't allow, or excuse me, they would allow opposite-sex kissing, but not same-sex kissing in the bar. So we went and had a giant kiss-in there on June 7th. And that was a lot of fun. So this is an example of one of the flyers that we would paste everywhere and invite people to join us. We had about, gosh, I think 75 people there that night. Then Queer Nation was the big contingent in the second Lesbian and Gay Pride March that was held June 1991. We had about 500 people there. That's me leading the parade with my bullhorn, and my fairy wand is in my left hand. Yeah, I couldn't do anything with without that damn fairy wand. I call this photo "Faggot with a Bullhorn." And then once we marched from the Capitol down to the city county building and encountered a group of white supremacists there who were all shouting "Sieg Heil," "Kill the fags," "Die from AIDS," all kinds of fun things like that. Super exciting. And I'm holding my bullhorn going, oh, if they have a gun, I'm dead. And now that's blown up into these giant LGBT pride marches that happen here with tens of thousands of people. And that's really amazing. For the 24th of July, we made pink and purple balloons that say Utah, a great place for queers. And we went to Main Street, which is where everybody camped out before the 24th of July parade. And we gave them out to children. And we thought a lot of parents would be really upset. And I think I only remember maybe one parent coming up and saying, oh, not cool. But, and we figured, how can a parent say no to a kid who wants a free balloon? So that went over really well. We had another conference protest that October, and that's me and Leroy Teo. I got this black and white gingham dress at ZCMI. Who does not know what ZCMI is? It was the LDS Church's department store that was just across the street from the temple. Yeah. With my lovely queer as fuck sticker on. I love that dress. I wore it a lot. It was very comfortable. So for those of you youngsters who don't know, they used to purchase print copies of a newspaper from these vending boxes where you'd go up, put a quarter in the slot, the door would open, and you would just, on our system, take one paper. I'm sorry, Alice. Sweetie, you are old. So the Salt Lake Tribune had been not doing really good reporting on the LGBT community. And so, let's see. I wrote in my journal, Queer Nation is going very well. We just had a major success. The Tribune's been doing lousy reporting of lesbian and gay stuff. So Queer Nation had stickers printed up saying out of order for homophobic content. And 2 Mondays ago, we got up at 5 a.m. and went downtown to put those stickers across every slot on every vending machine in the city so that people wouldn't be able to buy their newspapers. Well, we thought that the Tribune would be totally irate, but just the opposite happened. The publishers of the Trib called up people in the gay community to try and find out who had done this, and then meet with our leaders to discuss what to do. Well, so this Monday, Gay and Lesbian Community Council of Utah President Brenda Voisard, Gay and Lesbian Utah Democrats leader David Nelson, and then Renee Rinaldi and Devin Hansen of Queer Nation met with the publisher and was able to get him to agree to sensitivity training for all their editors and reporters. And it went over really well, and we never had problems again with the Tribune. So that was another tiny little thing that turned into this amazing experience. In the 3rd issue of Queer Fuckers, I wrote I wrote a meditation on Sodom, because I'd been thinking about how lesbians have Lesbos as a place that they can dream about and think about and kind of work toward as this idyllic place. And gay men, we got Sodom destroyed by God in fiery flame. So just as people were claiming words like queer and dyke and fag, I was like, I'm going to reclaim sodomite and Sodom. And so I wrote this it's 2 pages. That's a photo of me with my poster that says, "Hi, Mom, I'm a proud and happy sodomite." And so the very last paragraph I'm going to quote from this essay: "Let's take back Sodom. Let's rebuild there. They always give us wastelands, and we always turn them into music and gardens, full of our passions, desires, beauties. In that space, I can stand my ground. In that space, I can speak my body without fear." So after Queer Nation fizzled out, I moved to Moab for a couple of years, and then I moved to Santa Cruz, California. So it's 1994, and I go into Bookshop Santa Cruz, go to the queer studies section, which is huge, and I'm going through the titles, like, what do I want to get? And I see this book called Reclaiming Sodom, and I laughed. Oh, that is so cool. He chose the same name that I did for his book, Dr. Jonathan Goldberg. And then I open it up. There's my essay right in the center of the book. So here's my copy that I bought in 1994, and I'm right in the center is my cute little 2-page essay, and it's sort of the basis for this whole damn book. He had been writing about Sodom prior to this, but really loved my idea of reclaiming it. And so, because queer zines are not copyrighted. He had legally, and I'm glad he did. He could just republish it without getting permission, and so my essay ended up in there. I was like, oh my god, that's great. And then it's triggered a whole bunch of books that were published in response, mainly in France and Italy, but a lot of it was kind of talking about my essay. Some people were really horrified that I had dared reclaim such an awful place and locus, but a lot of other people were like, "Yeah, this is great." So this is the Amazon promo. Reclaiming Sodom explores alternatives to the force of the sodomitic biblical narrative in Islamic, non-Western, and Western traditions, and discusses the way in which sodomy calls into question normative definitions of sexuality and gender. The collection pursues the pleasures and dangers of these alternatives and takes on Proust's refusal to imagine a social movement founded on the stigma of Sodom. Reclaiming Sodom makes a significant and controversial contribution to the literature on sexuality and gender, as well as the nature of sex in our culture. So I'm really proud of that. It was just a throwaway little thing that I wrote. My friend Paula Huff, who was a journalist for the Tribune, she wrote a long article about what was happening in the queer community at the time. And I pulled out this paragraph. Perhaps no group has done, sorry, the Zoom thing's in the way, has done more to bolster visibility than Queer Nation, a radical organization that fights homophobia. Activists staged a kiss-in at a Salt Lake nightclub as part of its suburban homosexual outreach program or shop. Members don wild garb and army boots and pearls and walk through ZCMI stores. In November, members covered city buildings with posters, "Heteros Go Homo," "Dyke Power," and "A Queer Was Here." So I think that's a really nice summation of, our success. We really did. We pushed the envelope of what was possible as far as activism here in Salt Lake City. And I think one of the big successes was that we were so far out there so that suddenly the mainstream LGBT community became so reasonable. And reporters were really willing to talk to them because they didn't want these angry Queer Nation radicals screaming at them, dyke power and stuff like that. So it really pulled everything over and made LGBT activism, really, really successful here in the wake of Queer Nation. So I just want to end with this quote from John Lewis, representative of Rest in Power, good man, and where he says, "Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America." And I just echo that. You never know, when you drop that pebble into the pond, how far those ripples are going to go. So do what you can where you are. Stand your ground and see what can ripple out from those actions. You just never know where that's going to take you. So I think that's it. Okay.
We'll open it up for Q&A. I have a question.
Yes,
Okay.
Megan.
I thank you so much for sharing your experience. I loved hearing about the first Pride Parade, or Pride March.
Well, that was 1990. That was a year before Queer Nation did the second one. But
yeah, the question that I have
okay.
is I know that the Gay and Lesbian Community Council is credited with the first one, it sounds like, and then Queer Nation's credited with the second one.
Well, I mean, I organized and led both of them, but it was as a committee member of the Gay and Lesbian Community Council. Yes.
You could talk about the relationship between the two organizations. Obviously, they were very different. Like, I know the Gay and Lesbian Community Council had a relationship with like the police and like the city, and what was like maybe the relationship between the two organizations? How did they differ? What was your experience?
Well, so the community council was, we always jokingly refer to it as the gay senate because it was representative. Every single LGBT organization in the state could send 3 voting members to community council. It had started out as a way for us all to organize schedules because there started to be enough of a community that, you know, people were organizing dances on the same nights and stuff like that. And so it was a way just to coordinate all of our schedules and not overlap activities. But then it just grew and grew and grew. We turned into a lovely family of people. And then if you were not affiliated officially with an organization, you paid a $5 due yearly, and that gave you 1 vote at our community council meetings. So it was this representative council that it wasn't the Utah Pride Center or Equality Utah issuing edicts to the people. It was the people rising up together and making statements and sending them to the press and saying, this is what the organized gay community is thinking and feeling and wanting and demanding. And then Queer Nation was just a member within the community council. It was there was some antagonism between the official council and Queer Nation. How are we doing on time?
We're good. Right now it is 6:49, so we have 10 minutes for questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're very welcome.
It brings like a lot of emotions up because I feel the benefit of so much of the work that you've done in the past. And I was curious if you could talk a little bit about like if there was any fear of retribution or how you felt in 1991 as you were doing these apps, if there was fear, like, am I gonna be in trouble or?
Oh yeah. There was fear of losing my job at the University of Utah, and part of, I know that's a long story. I won't get into that, but yeah, there was fear of losing our jobs, and we basically all just came to the point of, if we don't do it, who will? And we're going to do this at any cost, and we're going to be a tribe together who will support each other and have each other's backs. And there was retribution. We did get some physical violence at one of our actions. Andrew Dice Clay was a comedian who was, I don't think he was really sexist and racist and homophobic, but that was his shtick. He played this character who was those things. And he had a huge following, and he played at a Bravenel Hall. And so we protested his concert outside at a Bravenel Hall, and we were viciously attacked by the crowds of people, all these bros who wanted to get in and hear him spew his hatred. And he had paid security, and there was all supposed to be Salt Lake City police officers there, and they suddenly just all disappeared at the same time, and the crowd just had a field day with us. So Diana, I think one of the things that she taught us was that if you get into a violent situation, men won't publicly hit a woman. So the women in your group circle your wagons and have the men be inside the circle. And so we did that. All the dykes got arm in arm, facing the crowd. So they are taking the brunt of this. And the guys were in the center, but there were enough of them that they broke through the dike. Sorry. and attacked us. It was not fun, so I remember Dan O'Leary, he was especially attacked. Oh, and once things kind of settled down, the guy who had beaten me just got back in line. A police officer came over to arrest me and was like, "Can you describe the man?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's that guy right there." And he wouldn't turn around and look at the guy. He was like, "Please describe him." And I said, "Hey, how tall are you?" And he goes, 6'2". And I said, "Officer, he's 6'2". What color are your eyes? Brown. They're brown eyes. He would not turn around. It was it was so bad. It was really demoralizing. It was hard to deal with. Yeah. Angela. Dude, Angela's my neighbor. I love living next to them. I didn't hear you say that louder, please. Thank you. When we met, I bored them with an hour-long PowerPoint on my life. It was, I'm so embarrassed by it now, but I don't. Yeah, yes. Thanks. Okay, sorry, Angela, your question.
I was gonna ask, what did your meetings look like? Like, what were how often did you meet? Like, how did you kind of model it?
We usually met monthly. We always sat in a circle to avoid that hierarchical stuff that happens. Um, there was there was a note taker and a facilitator, and we rotated those roles around everybody so that everybody got an equal chance to do that. Um, and then for special events, we would sometimes do something a retreat. So before the April conference event, we all went up to Lava Hot Springs. We rented a house and just spent the weekend together. I guess it was the week before, just processing what we were going to do and how to do it and make sure we were safe with what we were doing. That was really lovely. We did a big camping trip up above Helper, Utah, in the national forest up there. That was so much fun. Yeah, so that was just again a weekend retreat, but we would have meetings and sit around the campfire and talk and just be a family together. Yes, Gary.
Today's kind of advice you give younger, early 1990s.
What would I give to
About the queer
Oh, yeah.
and your experience.
Not take it so seriously. I was giving myself ulcers for just stressing out about it, and just it it was a really challenging time, and there was so much other stuff going on in my life, and I wish, and instead of dealing with a lot of that, I was just putting a lot of my energy into Queer Nation, and eventually, for me, what ended Queer Nation was that we were living on anger constantly, just anger, 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 anger. And I felt like sometimes we were almost creating events that we could be angry about. you know, that's not a healthy way to do activism. And I wish I would have been able to see that sooner and kind of stop that.
You guys can take the time and enjoy any of the victories.
No. Oh, we had a homosexual agenda that was this long. Well, I mean, like the camping trip, that was a celebration and a decompression and things like that. So that occasionally, yes, but not often. It was like, oh, check that off the box. Okay, what's next? Oh, K Talk Radio is doing this homophobic event, and we have to go and do that. Okay, check that out. Oh, it was just we did a lot of activities, a lot of zaps, and we did not take enough time. So that would be another thing I would tell myself is stop and smell the roses. Yeah. Miss Alice. Well, yeah, Queer Nation was nationwide. Well, and it even went into Europe. But, queer was such a negative word that, smear the queer as a kid, it was it was a really negative thing to be in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and now we hit 1990, and we said, let's reclaim that, and so yeah, that was a big part of our mission, and all across the country. We weren't the only state where people were really upset with us using the word queer. California and New York and Alabama and Florida, everywhere there was a queer nation, there was pushback about that word. There's still pushbacks from especially folks my age and older who still are so wounded by the word queer that they don't like that we use it with power and positivity. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did you ever get in touch with the doctor who printed that article of yours? And did you tell him, like, you should have contacted me because I would have loved this and we can work together?
I don't recall for sure. I want to say I emailed him and I got a brief response, but I don't know.
That must have just been thrilling.
It was extraordinary. I was on cloud nine for a week, just going, oh my gosh, this was printed in London and New York. Any other questions? Lisa, I see you have a burning question on your. Okay. Maybe it was Monique. Okay. Sorry, I misread the room. I mean, it faded away. I think, in my opinion, and it's not based on any evidence, just my thoughts, that the anger ran out. Everybody just got so tired of living on anger all the time, and it was just burnout. So it fizzled. I moved to Moab, and Queer Nation Utah ended after I left. So I don't know about the ending dynamics of it.
Connell?
Oh, John.
Hi.
Hi, sweetie. Do you have a
Hi.
question?
I just wondered if I might be able to address that last question about how it ended.
Sure.
So,
Can you hear me? Okay.
are folks able to hear me? I know that there may not be a amplification, but anyway, the first thing I want to say is I need to be on the list. I didn't see my name on the list, so make sure my
I think
name
you
gets on the
are.
list.
Okay. If not,
Um,
I'll put it on there. I'm sorry.
But the other is that I was thinking a lot about the ending of Queer Nation, and one of the things that I feel happened was that Bill Clinton's campaign was going, and he was giving so many promises to queer folks, and in some ways, I feel like a lot of us really bought into the fact that we were going to get saved by electoral politics, that we were going to get saved by someone in the White House who is going to change everything for queer people. And of course, that did not happen.
It did not happen.
But I think that
Clinton
in some ways,
betrayed us.
I think many of us may have fallen for it. And
Mm.
then the other thing I remember about the final days of Queer Nation is that we kind of discovered, and maybe this was just part of the liberation element of it, and I don't necessarily blame us for that, but I do feel that like we discovered um, rave and drug culture.
Oh,
That was not particularly helpful in terms of like maintaining the momentum or the cohesiveness. And so a lot of the energy of some of the Queer Nation folks, I think, really went into like, okay, let's commandeer this warehouse and have a rave there.
sex,
Um,
drugs, and rock and
and a
roll.
lot of psychedelics and ecstasy were involved too. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's right. The rave culture was just starting. In fact, when I moved to Moab, I organized 2 raves down there out in the desert. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, and I agree with the Clinton assessment. He really betrayed it. We had a lot of hope that he was going to do good stuff for us, and then he really betrayed us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for your question and answer. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anything else? Gabby?
Wait, I was gonna kind of like ask slash expand more. Like, so I was thinking about this earlier, actually. How like in San Francisco, right? Like with Folsom, there was like also like public displays of like sexuality and eroticism with people like fucking on the streets.
Yes.
And I was wondering like if Queer Nation ever used eroticism as like a tool other than like the kissing and like the hot sex is gay sex, because obviously like there is like the parties that people do throw with like dark rooms and more like public sex events like in the queer community. So I was wondering like if there was things like that in Utah, especially like at that time, whether it be publicly or privately.
There was some private parties, but not, and they weren't very big that I knew of, but it not really. So, you know, we're a very small community. We're not San Francisco with a huge Folsom community and et cetera, et cetera. So no, it didn't really happen that much. No. All right.
So
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
thank you, Connell.
You're welcome.
So we're trying to get more data about these events. So if you could answer 3 questions, we have a little end of event survey. I'll be over here with our donation QR code. And if you donate, you get a free trans history zine that we wrote. And then Randy is also employed by Signature Books. So if you go and give Randy your money to get a book, I just want to clarify that doesn't go to Mildred Berryman. That goes to Signature. But check out their table as well. They have some awesome stuff out. So thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, John. Have a good night.